another episode of Cable Chatter. It's been a little while since we've been here, and you're probably not used to my face sitting here. Usually another gentleman, Rick Clear or John Schmidt or somebody else that's been living around this studio. But we're going to try and bring this back and talk about community events. My grandmother told me that she didn't know what was going on, so here I am to try and tell you and bring people here to tell you what's going on. So I have a couple of community announcements I want to go through. The Randolph County United is sponsoring the Winchester Square umbrella display again this year. They plan to hang them around Bicentennial Plaza around July 4th, so make sure you get a chance to stop out there, and Randolph County businesses can stop by the Randolph County United office to pick up a umbrella to decorate. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Scotty Harvey at the office. Also, we have the Randolph County Airport 70th Annual Fly-In Breakfast coming up on June 12th, 6 to noon. So if you want to come out, get some breakfast, eggs, sausage, toast, coffee, milk, and juice, prepared by the Union City Lions Club. So we'd love to see you out there. You can get plane rides, get a chance to see all the different planes coming in. It's a really good time. It's a neat event, and we'd love to see you. As far as other events and things happening, the Winchester Speedway Race Flyover States Race will take place on Tuesday, May 18th. In June, on the 5th, the Who's Your Daddy 100 race is at the Winchester Speedway. On the 11th, the Flying Toasters, a free conference series in Goodrich Park. On the 12th, you'll have the Union City Farmers Market. Also in Union City, it's Junior Davis and the Funkyard Dogs, a free concert in Artisan Park. The Phi Delta Kappa Beta Eta chapter breakfast will be at Winchester. The Sean Lamb Band is another free concert on the 25th in Goodrich Park. Ladder will also be on the 26th at the free concert in Artisan Park. And then the Randolph County United Chamber Division will hold its first annual membership gala on June 26th. And then as a reminder, the Winchester Farmers Market on the Square will be happening every Saturday in June. And if you heard anyone else laughing, specifically at me, my guest tonight is Chad Spence, Mayor of Union City. I know he's been in the paper recently, and it lists all of his various credentials, accoutrement, and any other various aspects. And I didn't do my research, so I don't have any hard-hitting journalism for this evening. But Chad, is there any other things you want to add to that long list of events that's happening in Union City between now and whenever?
Well, first, I'm glad I didn't have to read that list.
And I apologize for anything I butchered there.
Well, no, I think you did excellent. That was a mouthful. So May 19th, or May 29th, I'm sorry, excuse me, May 29th, Saturday, that happens to be Memorial Day weekend. That Saturday at 2 p.m. will be the induction of basically Military Park, which is the downtown park dedicated specifically to the military that sits right next to Artisan Crossing, or actually between Artisan Crossing and the railroad depot. And so the people have probably already seen a military mural up on the wall. Well, there's going to be the actual various branches of military, their symbols up on the other side of the wall, and then there'll be a statue placed on the platform that's already out there. And it's a very touching statue. It's a soldier carrying another, and it will be, and there's also pavers on sale where people can remember their loved ones, military, well, both past and current. So even if you have someone that's serving in the military currently, you can recognize them on a brick paver, and those pavers will be out surrounding the statue eventually, and it's really going to be beautiful, and it's just to pay tribute to how we're free, which is awesome. And so that's May 29th, and then June 19th, and this is tentative, and this is going to be actually a pretty nice segue, I think, into something you were wanting to ask me about today. But June 19th, tentatively, is the move date for the railroad tower. And so if everything goes according to plan, people will actually see that building actually physically lifted up and transported over to Artisan Crossing, and it will sit directly across from Military Park. So it's really going to be neat. That area is really going to get developed. It's already a gathering spot, but it's going to become even a more appealing gathering spot, if you will, in terms of things for folks to see and to just create a greater attraction, for downtown. So.
Yeah, it's been neat. I've been doing a walking challenge here at school, and so some of the other administrators and I have been walking around town in the mornings, and it's really pretty in the mornings walking around town. There's not a lot going on, but you get a chance to kind of look around and slow down enough to look at things. And we've been watching the memorial, or that side of the park, kind of come together and gradually become what it is. And so it's been really neat, and I think it's going to be really, really cool when it all comes together. Awesome. Any other things coming up?
Well, there will be, but for those are the two biggest things that hopefully if people can take part in or learn more about, we would certainly appreciate it. Even if you don't have anybody directly that serves in the military, if you know someone who does, let their loved ones know, let their family know, and see if they would have interest in the paver, because and they can go up to the city building and purchase for the paver and convey all the information they want displayed on the paver. But it's a great opportunity, because it's special when somebody is willing to lay down their life for others that they don't even know, and we've got a lot of military history in this community, both current and past, and that's just a blessing beyond measure. So I'm just humbled and privileged to be able to take part in recognizing that, so I think it's an awesome opportunity.
It's definitely a really neat thing. Well, that's as far as announcements, and that brings us into the primary reason we are here to talk today is the railroad tower. Mm-hmm. And so to start kind of way back, because I don't even remember all the details, or I don't know that I've ever heard all the details, and kind of the story of what brings us to today and then the future. And so what is the history of the railroad tower? I mean, I've seen it, and it just gradually seems like it's acquiring more plywood in my life.
Unfortunately.
And it's a staple. It's always been there, but I know that's going to come into question, and so that's why we're here. So what's the story on the railroad tower?
Yeah, it actually goes back. I have gotten varying degrees of data on the actual date it first came into existence, because I do know it replaced the wooden tower. Okay. And the dates that I've gotten through various literature and so forth, somewhere in the 20s, it appears it was built. Believe it or not, of all the research we've done, I've yet to be able to acquire the exact date that it was built. And that date's obviously got to be out there somewhere, but we just haven't found it. But so this tower has been in existence for over 100 years, or roughly thereabout. And so that means it's witnessed soldiers coming and going during World War II. I mean, that's how a lot of our soldiers left town in World War II, was on the train. And it has seen a lot of train traffic that's beyond count, obviously, because this community, in its heyday, I was told had 19 rail lines in
Sounds
this.
about right.
Yeah, and at least 19 tracks sitting in the middle of the city. So that's just phenomenal. It has become such a piece of history. I mean, it's been around for so long. And anybody who's an historian was like, well, I don't want to see it torn down. And then we've also had the rail fans who are like, I don't want to see it torn down either. And then you've got on the other side of the ledger, folks that are like, it's just an old brick building. Put it out of its misery and let's move on, And I understand both trains of thought. And so it begat the dilemma, okay, if we do save it, why are we saving it besides just our love for history? Which in my heart, that is reason enough. I'm a history fan too, and I've got a soft spot in my heart for what went into some of these structures to put them, because they put these things up without power tools, and they didn't pull up in their Ford truck and unload everything,
Sure.
A lot of this stuff come in on a horse and wagon, so.
And it's always interesting to see history in action, and we've kind of turned some sites into museums and things like that, where you can go see the way things were done, or how it was built, or what it used to be. And so it's just another piece of that at this point.
Exactly. And I don't want to lose that, because I think we can learn from history. Because unfortunately, when we don't learn from history, I think history itself has proven when we don't learn from history, we tend to make the same mistakes,
right,
or even worse mistakes. And it also tells us something about our heritage, and how hard folks worked to get things accomplished. But that's from the historical perspective. But the other end of it was, okay, how do we make this practical? How do we put it to use? And the previous mayor, Brian Conklin, he actually sought he initially wanted to see this saved and started the groundwork. And certainly it was his efforts that helped pave the way for this to have a landing spot. Because Artisan Crossing, if anybody remembers back in the day, it was just some old dilapidated structures that were beyond saving. And it was actually a contaminated area that we had to have Brownsfield come in and do a remediation and to make it, to eliminate the contaminants. And
so what was there that contaminated the ground?
I think there was actually, like oil and paint, I think. Well, I believe paint, but I know there was certainly some oil remnants from auto work that was done there. And so, it obviously, it's a landscape that we have to work with because of previous administration's efforts. And so, but, in terms of practicality, it's like, okay, we have Artisan Crossing, but we have no public restrooms.
Sure.
We have to bring in all the porta-johns, and my wife will not touch a porta-john.
And there are lots of folks that won't.
Yeah, I understand that because I'm not fond of them either. If I have that or indoor plumbing, I'm choosing indoor plumbing every time. But then also, even further, much deeper than that, though, is okay. This trail or the rails to trails. Once they are finished someday, and I know some people probably wonder if that's ever going to be finished, and I've wondered that at times too, but if they are finished, the walking trail that connects Ohio and Indiana through Union City, that path runs right there. That path runs right along Artisan Crossing. So, okay, now we've got a potential visitor spot. If people on bike or on foot, they're coming through, and maybe this is a potential landing spot for them to stop and find out something about the community and have like a wayfinding signs in there or different literature in there that tells about our community. So maybe people are like, oh, I can go up here and get something to drink or something to eat or go buy this and know a little bit about where they're at.
Certainly, and if you're gonna be on a trail or whatever, your first stop, where you're gonna park your car is where the restroom is.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's where you're gonna be leaving from and coming back
exactly,
too. So
exactly.
That does definitely bring things together there.
Exactly. Well, and then lastly, we thought, we've got a way to honor the people who worked in the rail history and also even our first responders, because fittingly, this tower where it will sit will overlook directly the fire and police department. And so here you're talking about a group of people, rail workers, military, or first responders being police, fire, EMS. These are people that are accustomed to not the easiest work, and they're accustomed to the safety or serving for the safety of others. Because if you think about the rail traffic that used to come through town, I mean, people still think there's a lot of rail traffic come through town. But if you think back in the day when you had people actually physically leaving town on train,
sure,
you would see trains coming through with army tanks and jeeps on them, pulling. You would see everything back in the day, and they were pulling, you just name it, it was going by rail. But there was so much traffic that rail tower was basically synonymous as a air traffic controller. That person was overseeing the traffic to make sure everything was coming in and going out safely, and that people were leaving and coming and going safely. And so they were charged with everyone's safety and their well-being, just as our first responders are today, and so it's just a way to honor folks, a bit of our history, but also the folks that still to this day serve us as well in terms of keeping us safe. And a rail tower is kind of like the lighthouse also for a ship, to ensure safe passage.
Sure.
And so it's kind of symbolic in a way too. It's preservation. And so really it's multifaceted why we saw an opportunity to save this. And what's cool is we did it without burdening the taxpayers.
Yeah, so so we decide that this is a building we want to save, but then the question is, how do we do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because moving a building, renovating a building, this is all a lot of expensive work, and you got to find out, can the building be moved? Can it, at this age, sustain something like that?
Yes.
And so that brings us to, all right, so we know why it's worth saving. We've decided we want to save it. We know the history of it. So what, months ago, because I know we've got new progress. So months ago, how did we start building this, it takes money to do this
Oh,
thing.
mercy me, done everything.
Yeah, it seems that way. So how did we get past that hurdle or break into that piece?
Absolutely. Well, number one, if anybody knows me knows that faith is a very strong thread in my life, and I'd be lost without it. And so I reached out. I thought, okay, first let's get a sign put up, as if a sign's going to do everything.
You always look for a sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Here's your sign.
Yeah.
So we've got to start somewhere. So I reached out, and we had a LaFuse. Her first name's escaping me. She's a sweetheart, and she's a great artist.
Is it Ryan?
I think she lives between Union City and Winchester. And anyway,
Sounds about right.
she's an artist, and she's very talented. And I found out she would be one that would be possibly interested in helping us out. And she goes, "You supply the supplies, I'll paint it for you." And just very gracious. She was so sweet, and she did a wonderful job. So she painted up. I told her basically the contents of what I wanted on it, and she took it from there. And she drew up this wonderful sign. Just did a fabulous job. And I planted that sign, right near the rail tower, and there begat the K.I.S.S. Well, that did garner some interest right off the bat. And we did have we had a couple of different $1,000 donations right off the bat just from that sign being in the ground. Yeah, and so we ended up it churned probably about not quite $5,000 worth of donations. So it was $4,000 something odd dollars that we had sitting. I think it was in preservation, but it just sat there for quite a while. It's like, okay, we've hit our wall,
The sign's done all it can.
Exactly.
It's time we gotta do something else.
Time for Plan B. What is Plan B?
Right. Step one, get Plan B.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but again, I'm operating on faith. It's like Matthew 19:26. With God, all things are possible. So I'm not letting go of that. I ran on that. In terms of running for election. And so, okay, it's like, what do we do from here? And we did know, and I digress. We knew it was, at the time, it was going to be $68,000 to move the tower. We had a moving company, I think through Larry Ansball, he contacted a moving company, and they gave a quote. They said, yes, it could be moved, but the quote is $68,000. So I'm thinking, wow, $68,000, and that's just to move it.
Well, and there's a lot of things that are involved in a move of that nature. It's a 2-story-ish plus building.
Yes.
And there are lots of things between it and anywhere that need to be considered. So $68,000 is not an unreasonable amount of money.
Right, it's not. But it just seemed like a lot of money because it's just like so many other things we're looking at, and it's like, okay, how are we going to get this done? Well, then Bill Corbin come into the mix, and he found out what I was wanting to do, and he became very ingrained in the broadcast and communication end of it, the storytelling end of it, which he does exceptionally well. And we basically, with his efforts and guidance, we formulated an approach to reach the masses, in a communication strand, but that was on the heels, though, of finding out that we had an offer or an ability to get a matching grant through the state. And because I reached out to the lieutenant governor actually made calls out to all the mayors, as she does. She keeps in contact with them, and she says, "You ever need anything, you call me." And so, okay, I'm going to take you up on that.
Matter of fact.
Yeah, exactly. So I laid out there. I said, we've got a rail tower. This is what our use is designed for. This is what we're wanting to use it for. And we want to save it. We know you have a heart for history as well. Can you help us? And she turned us on to patronicity. And patronicity is something that Ted Leahy has utilized in town before too, and it's a matching grant. And they'll match up to $50,000. So you raise $50,000, we'll give you $50,000. All of a sudden now I'm thinking, okay, this is doable. Well, somewhere in the course of that process also, Councilman Nathan Conklin was exploring potentially moving a house, and this company he was talking to, he found out he wasn't going to be able to move the house he was wanting to move, but he said, hey, by the way, would you be interested, or you be able to, and he laid it out there, the rail tower. And the guy said, yeah, we'll take a look at it. We move all kinds of things. It's the Wolf Building and Mover, House and Building Movers. They're phenomenal.
So that's what they do?
Yeah, they do it for a living. And they're actually a global company.
Okay.
I did not realize this. And their portfolio is nothing short of impressive in terms of what they've moved. They've moved mansions across water even.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow is right. So, so they come down, took a look at it, and the guy was like, no problem, we'll do it for $42,000. So automatically, it's like we raised $16,000.
Yeah, that line got moved dramatically.
Yeah, exactly,
right.
exactly. So it's like, okay, now we're getting serious. Now this is really looking up. And so we went through the rigmarole, and I say rigmarole with patronicity because we found out we had more hoops to jump through because it's a historic structure sitting in a historic district in town, which means now you've got to meet guidelines set forth by State Preservation Society and all those things. It's like, oh boy, okay. So, but we did that, we navigated that. And then in January, we went live with our 60-day matching campaign. So for 60 days, we had to get 50,000 raised to get the 50,000 from patronicity. The catch is, and this was some sleepless nights, but by faith, I got to sleep because I was like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. You either raise the full 50,000 and get the 50,000, or you raise whatever you raise and you get nothing. It's all or nothing.
So, and that would mean it'd be returned to the donors, or?
Well, if we end up not raising enough to even move it, yes. Because once we found out we could raise or move it from 42, it's like, well, if we can at least raise 42, we know we can move it. But we wouldn't get the matching 50. We'd only have 42. They wouldn't say, okay, we'll give you 42 then. No. You raise $40,990.99. Mm-hmm. They're still not matching you with the...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you get there, you can call me. I can...
Okay.
We can raid the couch. We can find something.
Can you help us out?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can do that.
So, so with that being said, we started that campaign, and we were blessed beyond measure. We had folks that I had never even heard of giving money. We had two different $5,000 donations come through from families. One that always had a heart for Union City, didn't even graduate from Union City. Another one who from a family of Albert Hunt, God rest his soul, he worked for the railroad, and he actually worked in that tower. Oh, wow. And their family wanted to honor him. And we had all kinds of other stories like that too. And my apologies for all the names I didn't just name, because there were so many stories that come in that were so touching. And it was just so sweet what this meant to so many people that I had no idea. I had no idea. It was beautiful what came out of this. And it's been awe-inspiring is what it's been. And so it's cool because we're going to recognize, we set up levels of giving, and we're going to recognize all these individuals that gave at certain levels in the tower, and then also everybody that gave is going to get recognized like in the newspaper or with a letter from me. And because we couldn't have done it without them. And it's going to be a special thing.
That's really cool. So sounds like we made our goal, and
Yes.
and lots of really neat things happened there. And so we're into the okay now. You've I think there was a picture on Facebook where you finished painting the sign, filling in the
Yes.
Yep. And so in the middle of one of our
Snowstorms,
I think.
I think snow was falling, in fact, when I was painting it.
Yeah. And so you're doing, and so, to set the scene, this is all happening right after Community Christmas. So you just rolled right into, here's this whole new thing. And we'll explore Community Christmas a different day, because you don't have that much time at the moment to talk about Community Christmas. But regardless, so we've funded this project, and so this leaves us. So there's still a building sitting there. So you alluded to it a little bit. So where we go from here?
Oh, mercy. If you can only imagine how many different entities or moving parts there are into this, it's just amazing. And I'm so thankful. In fact, the gentleman from the state that's been corresponding with me back and forth in emails and phone calls, we both have stated in one time or another, thank goodness this is our only rail tower move. Because it would be the death of us to do it twice.
Yeah, thankfully, we only have one.
Yes, exactly. Because you've got you've got NDOT, which is Department of Transportation. You've got AEP for electric lines. You've got Spectrum with their communication lines. You've got the water and utilities that we have to be mindful of. You've got State Preservation Society that wants to make sure things are done in a certain way and that nothing's damaged on the tower and that the windows, when it does get in place, the windows are restored the way they want them restored and the doors, everything. And I'm leaving out some entities too, because even the Indiana Department of Treasury got involved. And yeah, most people think, okay, taxes, money. No, it had something to do with the oversight of the actual move, and I don't know. I still don't know how they are in the mix. But it's just like whenever somebody's name would get involved, or I would hear someone's name from the state, being in this process, I'd be like, well, of course they are.
Yeah. Is there a letter that goes around
Exactly.
that says, hey, there's a small town trying to do something? Get involved.
I'm waiting for my apologies. I'm waiting for something from the Pope, where it's required to have a blessing, for the tower to be moved.
I mean, I'm sure we can get some local work done as far as that goes.
So anyway,
we'll wait here a second, let you get your microphone fixed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been daunting getting the process executed to actually physically move it. And then once it's physically moved, even before we move it, we've got to get the foundation, the gravel laid, and then the tower gets set, and then they turn around and they work on concrete and actual bricking before they drop the tower. The tower will get moved, but then will actually sit suspended for a brief spell. Yes.
Yeah, because this is a big brick old
Yes.
building, so the
Yes.
foundation of this needs to be. The last thing you want to do is move something and then put it go cheap on the foundation and falls over.
Yeah, you wake up the next morning, it's like
we don't need the leaning rail tower of Union City.
it might be a conversation piece.
I
But
mean,
yeah.
the bathrooms would be a little bit arduous as you start walking in. They drift a little
Stalls
bit.
are
Yeah, hold on.
But yeah, there's so much that goes into it in terms of the details. That's why I always say June 19th is tentative. And it's not because we don't know what we're doing. Well, there's a degree of the fact we don't know what we're doing because we're doing everything for the first time.
Sure.
But it's just the fact there's so many different moving parts, literally and figuratively, that we've got to make sure we check all of our boxes before we do this. Because we do want to do it right. And the day, if it is June 19th or if it's shortly thereafter, I want to have that so heavily publicized because I want K.I.S.S downtown. I want local television stations downtown. I want the radio stations downtown because I've made it known that that's a big event. It's a piece of history that's physically moving.
They don't move very often.
No. And I think you'd be hard pressed in this community to name something that you've seen physically moved from one place to another.
I personally can't think of it.
Yeah, I can't either. And that's not to say there hasn't been, but I don't know what it would be, And so, it's going to be a cool time, and it's a repurposing of history. And these things are becoming rare, too. I've had a lot of rail historians. I've been in constant communication with a guy from Idaho who used to work for the rail tower here used to work for Pennsylvania Railroad.
Okay.
Penn, back in the day. And he worked here in Union City for a while. He's long since retired. But great passion for the rail industry and great passion for Union City still, even living in Idaho. And he's very hurt of all the towers in Indiana that have just been bulldozed. Because there were even towers in Indianapolis that were very historic in nature and quite dripping with history and architectural design and so forth, and they're gone, leveled. Because CSX is wanting to get all these leveled. And they're wanting them off their property because it's a liability.
Sure.
And so that's what they were going to do with this one, too. They were going to level it because it's a liability to them. And we didn't want to lose a piece of history, but also it was going to cost more than that to build a restroom.
Sure.
So it's a cost savings to us, actually. And if we built the restroom, it would have come out of tax money. This way, we're doing it without tax money. So.
Even better.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not burdening the taxpayer.
Exactly.
So we're gonna move this over to Artisan Park, and you're saying it's going to be closer to the depot towards that road over there.
It's going to sit. Yeah, if you can imagine the tower. It can't sit anywhere within 50 feet of the center of the nearest track. So it will sit beyond that point, parallel with the depot, and at make sure I get my directions right, southwest corner of Artisan Crossing.
And so not within 50 feet of the center track, is that because of it is or was a rail tower because of its height? What's the reasoning for that?
That's their right of way, and so anything in that right of way becomes their liability. So that's why they don't want.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. So they're trying to get rid of it, and they
Yeah.
don't want you to put it back into their area. Of like,
exactly.
Yeah, we moved it. You're welcome. And they're like, no.
We want nothing to.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is they did donate it to us, which they should, because we actually saved them too, because they don't have to knock it down now.
Right. They're saving money here.
Yeah.
And so this is a 2-story building. So we're looking at some history and the restrooms down on the first floor. What's the second floor and the overlook, the projection for that area to be?
It's to be restored to the very detail that we can of what it used to look like. I do have a replica map that will hang somewhere in that upstairs of what used to actually physically hang in there.
Okay.
Of the rail lines, the maps, or the different, all the different mechanisms that they were looking at on this map that help them navigate and govern these trains going through. And so that will be there, so give people a real life look at, okay, what was the person standing up here in 1932 looking at when they were looking out the window down the line, and they would look at this paper and what were the, and just to give them a sense or an idea. But we will also have the stories that we've collected from the people that have given. Those will be upstairs for people to read. Those will be permanently saved for history. And then pictures, and then any artifacts, because I've also been told there's some artifacts that people are going to give to us that were used by the rail industry, obviously within reason,
Yeah.
Lamps and so forth, that we will have up there as well that people can look at. And also we'll have some seating up there where if somebody wants to go up and have a cup of coffee and just relax and kind of take in a little bit of history, they'll have the opportunity to do so.
That sounds really cool. So we're in the middle of June. We're going to slide this giant building around. Giant is a relative term. It sounds like your movers have done things that are well above and beyond.
Oh yeah, they're impressive. Like you said, Wolf. It's WOLFE, I think is on the end. House and Building Movers, and they've got a local affiliate. Well, I say local. Fort Wayne is the nearest one, and they're impressive.
And so I know there's a lot of things going on, and we got a lot of big plans that we're looking out. And I don't want to roll into that today. We've got more episodes to film, and more things to talk about. But how does this piece play into the bigger picture? Chad Spence's view of and others, of where we're going from here.
Oh, I appreciate that. Now there's a number of things actually. One, it's just the idea of being able to take something that looked dilapidated or past its time and restoring it to a vibrance that could be appreciated and enjoyed again. And I think there's something also symbolic about that, because I think that resonates somewhere deep within the human soul. And the fact that so many of us at one point or another in life, whether it be because of age or bad things that's happened to us or loved ones or you name it, there's times where we feel like we're a shell of ourselves, or we're not everything we used to be, and that the best days are past and so forth. And that doesn't have to be the case. And your grandmother is a great testament to that. His grandmother, 104?
105.
105. Well, what's amazing, I remember talking to her when she was in her early 90s, and she was still talking about gardening, and she was still driving, and she was just this living, breathing testament of the human spirit, and always looking forward and not woe is me, and that to me encapsulates what God put in us, and also encapsulates the American spirit, that I'm not giving up.
Right.
None of us should give up. I don't care where your lot is in life and what situation you're faced with, and I don't care where you come from, because there's stories out there of several people who didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth when they were born, and they made themselves out of nothing, and they just, it's the American story, and this tower is kind of symbolic of that. It's seen better days, but it's not done yet, and it can be restored and be something special that people can enjoy again. And so that's part of it. The other part, and my apologies, I always set myself alarms, and that's going off. That's not embarrassing at all.
Well,
but the other part of it is the fact that we're trying to create a vibrancy downtown too, in terms of a drawing card. And Artisan Crossing is a big part of that drawing card. It's where events take place. Steve Shoemaker has worked his tail off in terms of making Artisan Crossing a vibrant, active place to come and see a concert or see a movie and hang out and enjoy yourself and relax and be entertained. And it's pretty cool to be able to come downtown and be entertained. And he's worked his tail off in that, and this would help play to those efforts, because now you've got a structure that, number one, it brings a kind of a neat personality to the park.
Absolutely.
But it also is functional because it helps cut down on the restroom line for
it provides a need. And at that point, you can spin something up a lot faster. You don't have to worry about, okay, we have this plan. Now we need to call somebody to bring in
exactly.
hardware. No, we've already got what we need.
Exactly, right on. And so it adds to that. It also is part of an unfolding theme that we're working on with the rail heritage, because Union City wouldn't even exist without the rail lines. That's how
Absolutely.
it come into play. And so when part of the Blight grant that we're trying to achieve this summer and hope to get would help tear down the old city building and police station, the L-shaped building on the corner of Pearl and Columbia that has been painted and graffitied and so forth. Those are dilapidated beyond repair. And they've actually need to come down. The police station in particular need to come down years ago. And so when they come down, there'll be even more open space there. Well, we're not putting in another park or making the park bigger, because people are like, we don't need another downtown park. Well, I don't disagree with that. We need commerce. We need money exchange and products for people to buy and so forth. So we're actually going to put in. We're scouring the countryside, and we've identified a caboose, and then we're scouring for a passenger car if possible, that we would bring in, put rails on that corner and set those two cars on that corner, restored rail cars, and they would house business. We've actually had potential insurance agent and or a salesman that has already expressed interest in having an office in a rail car. And so it would be a really neat twist, to the downtown, and it would be such a personality and such a shock for someone to be coming through a town. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that. There's a caboose and there's a rail car sitting on the corner there. It would be a conversation piece as well as probably a favorite photo spot.
Sure.
But it would also play well with then the rail tower, and then you've got the historic depot for the arts. So now you've got a theme going, and it just kind of all plays hand in hand, and it's a way to further brand our community. Because when we're bringing people into the community, whether it be to live here or work here or set up shop here, we've got to be memorable in a good way.
Absolutely.
We've got to be inviting. We've got to be embracing. We've got to be the kind of place where you're like, I went to Union City and there's something different about that town. I really like it. There's something, it's just got this spirit about it. They've done some really cool things downtown. It looks, you can tell people are really trying, and I want to be a part of that. That's part of that spirit that we're trying to establish with this. So again, it does play, the rail towers move does play to an overall theme too. So we're trying to move it on multiple levels or for multiple reasons. And
Absolutely.
So it's not to say it's the end all be all.
I do know at one point, I was down in downtown St. Louis, and they had an old restored rail car that was there right next to like a homemade ice cream shop, and there was kids in there and people in there just checking things out, and so it really does bring just a really neat and interesting space, because it's the place. It might not have been St. Louis, but regardless, it's one of the places that pops into my memory of I don't remember a lot of the rest of the town, but I remember that space.
Remember that, yep.
And so if we can bring that same thing, there's not a lot of places you see, a passenger car and a caboose, but they're right here, and so I'm going to remember that place, and so that's where we want to be. And
it's a competitive marketplace we're in. It's a global marketplace we're in, and so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take part in that global marketplace and be competitive, because a lot of people talk about, well, we need jobs. Where's the job? Well, actually, we do have people hired right now.
Absolutely.
We have job openings right now. But also the fact that jobs are changing rapidly. More and more people are working from home. So if they're working from home, that means it's not so much the jobs, it's the people themselves you need to draw. Because they're already working. They could work from Union City just as well as they could work from San Francisco if they're working from home. And so what is it about our community that's going to draw them to live here and work from their home here? And if anybody thinks that that's going away, they might consider otherwise.
Well, I don't think. I mean, if businesses realize that it can send its workers to their home and get the productivity out of them, and I don't have to pay for an office to house them other than rent a conference room on occasion, they're saving a lot of money not having to worry about a big building.
Exactly.
And if they can get you to work from your house, then you can go wherever you want.
Exactly.
And
so
still
now,
get your job done.
Exactly. So that what you do is you have a paradigm shift in terms of, okay, how are we approaching the marketplace and what are we going after? Yeah, we still want the jobs and we're still going to go after industry and server industry. That's why we're doing some things out the industrial park to help them further expand their work, if you will. But on the other side of the coin is, what do we do to draw the other folks here that are working more in a digital age, working from home? How can we draw them here to live? Why would they want to live here? What can we do to entice that? And so this is just a sliver of the pie that we're trying to bake to draw these people in.
one piece and one ingredient.
Exactly.
So that sounds fantastic. And I know there's a lot of other things that are going on, a lot of other irons in the fire and things that are moving around. And we'll come back. We'll have you back here and have another conversation about some of those other pieces. But the biggest thing I wanted to kind of get covered, because I knew this is coming up real soon, to get covered is what's going on with the rail tower. And I hear that question periodically. I know it goes around the Lions Club and other people ask me these questions, and I'm like, I don't know any more than you do. I don't know why you're asking me.
It's all in permits and checking boxes right now with all those different entities I mentioned. So.
Yeah, that's the struggle, because the campaign was done February and March, and then it just drops off because you're busy making sure all the other less fun, less exciting stuff's covered, so the big stuff can happen.
Exactly. It's funny. I can even remember joking with one of the engineers who helps our community. I said, I thought raising the money was going to be the hard part. It turns out that was the easy part. It's getting everything else done behind the scenes to actually physically move it that's been the challenge. But we're navigating it and we'll get there.
That's excellent. And as a community member, it's neat to see all the investment in downtown. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in downtown, and concrete's coming out, going back in, things are moving around, and so I know you've played a big part in that. And I know, as a community member, I appreciate all the stuff that you've done and all your hard work. But we'll kind of wrap that up on that note, and we'll be back to talk about more stuff, and maybe the Memorial Park. Am I saying that right? Memorial Park?
Military Park.
Military Park?
Yeah.
Maybe we can get a conversation on Military Park. Is Ted Leahy the guy I should talk to?
He has been instrumental in that as well. He's helped immensely. In fact, he helped write the grant to get the mural on the wall and the statue. He's, as usual, Ted's just amazing. And so he's been absolutely invaluable in the park and its establishment.
Well, since that's coming right around the corner, we'll see if we can maybe we can get him on next week, or whenever we can throw this together again. So, Chad, again, I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate that, and we're going to try and do this somewhat regularly. I would hate to give you a schedule because I'm probably going to be wrong, but it's good to be back. It's good to be back on the air and having these conversations and getting the message out of what's going on in Randolph County, what's going on in your local community here in Union City. So thanks for watching, and again, thank you, Chad.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Mine as well. Thank you.